Welcome back to the Artist Spotlight for Run Radio. I'm Trina Wilcox, and my guest today is Allie Hutsell. You are a performer, a talent coach. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Trina. I am a performer of 40 years and I'm a vocal performance and career coach on
Oh,
the side.
goodness.
So
So music's been a part of your life for a long time.
a
So,
long time.
growing up, then you've been into it. Tell me about that. Was it just in the background or always in the foreground?
It was really always in the foreground. My
Oh, cool.
mom was a pianist, and she started playing music for me when I was little.
Yeah.
And I started singing, a lot of church music, gospel music. At the time, more contemporary. Not, I wasn't ever familiar with very many hymns. We went to a more contemporary church from the time I was little. And it was kind of at the beginning of that movement. There's a big thing going on with the Jesus Revolution movie right now. Kind of at the, end of that movement, beginning of the next movement, I guess you could say. So everything we were doing was very, Sandy Patty, Dallas Home and Praise kind of driven.
Mhm.
And my mom would play piano for me in the churches in the Phoenix metro area. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. And then at 7 years old, I took my first contract to do a professional gig. And my mom, of course, parents had to sign off on it back then. They still do today, but I think the ages get younger and younger, younger for what they allow these days. But yeah, so she played for me, and I worked for an agency in Phoenix, Arizona. They booked big wedding type things, and at the time, Debbie Boone's "You Light Up My Life" was, storming the airwaves, and everybody wanted that sung in their wedding. And for some weird reason, they wanted a little girl to sing it. I don't know why. So that's kind of, how I got my start. And then from there, it just became more and more churches. And started, we moved to Texas. I was 11, 10, 11 when we got to Texas. And so junior high and high school is what I went through in Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth area. And they had these things called Opries.
Mhm.
And they were like little bitty versions all over the state of Texas of the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. And so some lady that worked with my mom said, well, your daughter should go audition. She should get more stage time and learn other styles of music. And so my mom was like, okay, well, we'll think about it. And I went to one just to see what it was like, and ended up auditioning that night. And that was the Mesquite Opry in Mesquite, Texas, just down the street from the Mesquite Rodeo, which is on TV as well. And PBR, is a big deal on that. And the gal that auditioned me, Janet McBride, she'd been in the business for many years. And she said, well, honey, you go home and you learn a couple country songs. And I don't care which ones. You go home and learn them, come back next week, and I'll put you on the show. Because I auditioned with, I think at the time it was Evie, which was popular before Sandy Patty was even back then. And so it was like, she's like, yeah, we don't do contemporary Christian on our show, but you go learn a country song, I'll put you on. And got some experience with a house band that they always have in all the Opries. And then from there, that just grew. And I started touring the state of Texas, doing all the Opries, and getting paid a little bit here and there, getting some private gigs here and there, working with other bands, and then ended up on Johnny High's Country Music Review, which was the largest live country music show outside of Nashville, Tennessee, competitively with the Louisiana Hayride back then, and a few other things going on in Nashville at the time. And Johnny High was, an old radio guy from Waco, Texas, back many years ago. And he had all these connections in the biz. And, a lot of people that he put on his show went on to become household names. And, so you got like Gary Morris and Linda Davis. And I think when I was there, it was Linda had just left, and then we auditioned Leanne Rhymes, and she was 5 years old, and she came in and auditioned for the show, and I was a regular on the show, and a little older than her quite a bit at the time. So I was on the panel that auditioned her, and it was really cool because this powerhouse voice and out of this little tiny body, and we were all like, you know what?
Right.
And that's the show that I was on every Saturday night, and I was called a regular. So I sang back up for all the guests that would come in, and then we would be featured as well, and worked with some incredible, iconic musicians in the industry. I was picked up by Porter Wagner and did some touring with him, and just in the Oklahoma, just the mid state and Texas area. And then 17 years old, Shoji Tabuchi, who was really good friends with my boss, Johnny High. He and his wife were looking to open a theater, 1989. I'm dating myself, my senior year of high school. And as if I hadn't already dated myself with all of the, contemporary gospel names I threw out there. And they wanted to bring in new talent, new blood to Branson at the time. And Shoj would come and he would do a Christmas show every year at Johnny High's in Fort Worth, Will Rogers Auditorium. And I would stand on the side stage just in awe of him, just mouth dropped open at how he could hold an audience in the palm of his hand, and his just being so genuine, and just how he related with his audience was mind-blowing to me. With a fiddle, violin,
Mhm.
and I just was like, how do they do that? With a Japanese accent. And it just blew my mind. And Johnny had cut and executively produced a couple albums on me in high school, and I was 16. My second album was released, and Shoji asked him, he said, who would you suggest we have come sing on the show? We want to bring in new blood, new talent, and we're going to do it 6 days a week, 2 shows a day. And he handed him my album and one other girl's album on the show, who was a friend of mine. And the next thing I know, Christmas, my senior year, Dorothy Tabuchi calls me and offers me a job doing what I love to do. And I was like, what? And I'm going to get paid what? And I don't have to go to college because I wasn't really good in school. Because I was just very, music was everything to me. And I played guitar and whatnot, which I was self-taught, and did that and played on a lot of the country shows in the Dallas-Fort Worth and Texas area. And so she offered me a position, and they were opening, that was in December of 88. They were opening for the first time the season of 89. Not even in the theater that's out on Shepherd Hills. It was down in the old auto show building, which there's now a theater there down below the Olive Garden off of 76. They were the first one to build that theater or turn that into a theater. And that was the year that I joined them. And of course, I came up from Dallas, Fort Worth on spring break, my senior year, spent my entire spring break videotaping the choreography and figuring out what songs they wanted me to do, and kind of learning the ropes. 17, I wasn't going to be 18 till May. Scared to death. My dad came with me. We rented my first place in Hollister, Missouri, when it was just a 2-lane spot in the road. It's not what it is now.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But rented a little house there. And Dad recorded on one of those VHS recorders you could go to Casey's and rent, and he recorded all my choreography for me. And then I ended up after spring break was over, going back to Texas, and then I would work on the choreography, try to finish my senior year of high school, still gig down there, and then come up here every other weekend to do the show once it opened. And I was one of the only people on the show outside of the family. Christina Shodidor hired as a lead vocalist, which they soon decided after that they weren't going to do that again. as people get jealous. They didn't want
Oh,
to deal with the drama of people. So I was very blessed, and never really had to have a formal audition. It just was Dorothy heard my album, fell in love with a KT Osmond song I did on there, and next thing I know, she called me and hired me, and I moved to Missouri and had no idea what Branson was, or why it was, or what I felt like it was culture shock coming from the big,
yeah.
you know. But from there, Shoji's, I ended up staying for 10 years, kind of moved up the ranks and up the ropes, and did all kind learned the business there, cut my teeth on the theater industry, and Broadway, Vegas, traveling a lot between the two, doing research for the show while singing on the show when I was home. And I was just a sponge. I was just like, teach me, make me, mold me. Like I just want to learn this business. It's exciting. I didn't know what my next step would be. Ended up leaving the show in 99. So 10 years later. And then I was just consulting. I became an independent contractor, put a band together, started booking solo stuff. Some of it was flying in and out, doing some jazz stuff on the East Coast with the jazz band out there. I've kind of done so many different things. It all kind of mod podges together in my brain.
Yeah.
But it all has poured in to creating the artist that I am today, the vocalist that I am today, the coach that I am today, the mom and wife that I am today. So I'm grateful for all the experience. The Tabuchis are my family in Branson. I still love them to pieces. Went back in 2013, did one season, but Branson wasn't like it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And as far as the show scene was concerned, and I missed that. I missed
Yeah.
all the places, being sold out a year in advance, the excitement, people like Mel Tillis and all the big names, moving to Branson, wanting a piece of that pie, and knowing that I was already there and I was getting to be a piece of it.
Hmm.
Just, wow.
Yeah.
It was a great time in my young life, and grew up in my 20s there. So I was hired at 17, left when I was 27. And then the rest of it, long story short, got married, met my husband, didn't plan on that. Um, and left the show to go because I felt called into worship ministry.
Oh,
At the time, started a 501c3 worship ministry called Heart Notes. And then God ended up doing some way different things with that than what I had planned, which his plan's always better. And I ended up meeting my husband through those circumstances, and then took on a son who's now 36, lives in Kansas City, married to my beautiful daughter-in-law. They went to college at MSU,
oh,
and she's an ex-Chiefs cheerleader, alum. So go Chiefs.
yes.
And and then he works for Cerner, has a really great job for Cerner, and we have two grandbabies, Braylon 8, or actually he just turned 9. Don't tell him I just said that. He
Ah,
just turned 9 February 9th.
okay.
It was his golden birthday, 9th on the 9th. And we have a granddaughter who's 3. And then we have a daughter together that we've raised. She just turned 20 last Monday, and her name's Grace, and she is also an artist, dancer, singer, musician, vocalist, and she plays with me. We have a duo called Allie and Grace, and then she's also in my band, and then she's
Oh,
in one of my longest client, Isaac Kenneth. She's in his band as well, so she's doing both country and rock, R&B, funk,
exciting. Okay.
and
Well, first
everything.
we need to have both of them on the show too as well.
Awesome. We would love
That would
that.
be
Love
great.
that.
But I want to go back. I know this was a few moments ago, but I'm just trying to think what it's like being 7 years old and how exciting, but also was it scary? Because I mean, you theoretically you had a job. So I
Yeah.
can't imagine having a
Yeah.
job that
Yeah.
young. And so what was that like?
Well, honestly, it really was at the time that I can remember. I mean, looking back, I'm almost 52. I'll be 52 in May. But looking back that many years ago, honestly, it just felt like fun for me because
Yeah,
mom and dad took care of all the business.
good.
They managed it. Soon after that, I had a baby brother come along, and bless his heart, he was carted everywhere, and he has become a very well-known chef in the
Oh,
Springfield
cool.
area for Retro. He owns Retro Metro, and his name's Chef Tiny. And
Okay.
he's married to my sister-in-law, Chef Hannah, who is also a culinary genius. And
Nice.
but uh, that aside, my brother also sang a little bit, but he chose being a chef over singing. But mom and dad just I was so blessed with the parents that I have.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel like I kind of they broke the mold when God made my mom and dad because they have always been supportive. They've always, been my greatest fans and advocates in life through everything. I mean, I always knew there was nothing I could do that would make them not love me or not be there for me. I always knew that if I needed them, they'd be there in a heartbeat. And even moving at the time at 17, 500 and something miles, almost 600 miles away from home, no roommate. I never had a roommate. So I was always living alone. I
Goodness.
was 17 and I had to pay rent and I had nobody my own age in Branson. That was the scariest thing. The
Yeah.
7-year-old thing, mom and dad had that all covered. Like I
Okay.
didn't even have to think about it. Even after we moved to Texas and I was getting booked to do some pretty big weddings in Texas, I would say Texas celebrity type weddings, not necessarily nationally, but in Texas, I did some pretty big wedding dates and also played a lot at South Fork Ranch back in the day for a lot of governmental political events in Austin, San Antonio. Mom and dad were having to drive me all over the state. My poor little brother was getting toted around, you know. And looking back on it, it's kind of like something you would see in a document or like in a Netflix show or something. It's kind of weird. Not too exciting, but yet everybody's interested in it because it's the music business, It's interesting to me, but to me, it's just what I did. To me,
It
it was just what I knew,
it
what I
sounds
was.
like you were very fortunate to have a great experience as a child.
Oh yeah,
Do you think that's rare when you have young
I
performers?
do.
Is it rare that it's really a good experience, or do we just get
Yeah.
highlighted and take note of the occasional bad ones? And what would you suggest to parents that do have someone young? How can they make it a good experience for them?
I would just say do your homework. Um, my mom and dad, they did a lot of homework on who do we trust? Who, how can we protect, our daughter in this? Because you hear nightmarish stories,
Yeah.
from other people. Um, I think some parents like um, looking at I don't know how many parents in the country music world have seen the Judd's story about Winona and Naomi. Well, I was fortunate enough to get to meet them as a teen entertainer in Grapevine. They were on their very first tour. And back then, you don't see everything that goes on behind the scenes. So for parents, you know, she had such a hard life anyway, outside of trying to promote her kid in the business. And I think a lot of parents, they make their life, they make the mistake of making their life about their kid. And it's not. If you're not taking care of you, you're not able to really be what you need to be
Mhm.
for your child. And I think that's one of the things that my mom and dad really did right. They weren't willing to compromise um, my sanity
Oh,
and
good.
our family's sanity uh, for some big offer or some, oh, it was everything that came to the table, we discussed as a family. Everything. They discussed it as parents and then they brought it to me. Even my brother, as he got older, was brought into it because he was a part of it. He was a part of our family. And I think taking that and making sure that you understand, yeah, this is awesome. This is a great opportunity, but is it really going to be in her best interest? Is it going to help develop her as an individual and
Mhm.
make her the person that we hope for her to be? Is it going to make her feel entitled? Which is, there's so much of that these days in these younger generations.
Yeah.
Um, it's just the times are so different today compared to what they were back when I was, that young doing it, that it's almost really incomparable because uh today it's really all about everything's online. You
Mhm.
know, yeah, it's great keeping live music alive, but
Sure.
most everything is online if you want to get discovered or you want to get the record contract or you want to stay independent or there's so many decisions
Well, that
that
and
I didn't
that's
have.
yeah, and that's something that is really important for Run Radio is to make sure that the independent artists are having a voice,
Hmm.
and there are different ways,
Sure.
to make sure your music is noticed. Do you feel like one is better than the other and why? As far as signing to a contract or being an
Oh,
independent
well, I will tell you how when I guide my clients, and I have clients of all ages,
Okay.
but I basically work with people. I'm not your typical um, vocal teacher. I feel like there are teachers and there are coaches,
Okay.
and both, whereas they pour into the individual that they're working with, the way in which they're given the opportunity to pour into them is a little different.
Okay.
Um, and also sometimes the education behind it is different. Um, so I tell I became a coach because my background was experience,
Okay.
not
Yes.
a college education. I don't
Hmm.
have a piece of paper on the wall that gave me a bachelor's or master's degree or, all of that stuff. Um, I I come from experience and my experience, my real-time experience in different aspects of this industry, um, is I pour in what I learned from my mistakes, my failing forward, all of those things, and my successes. Um, and I'm still learning and growing. So
Hmm.
the important thing as a coach is to always understand you're walking through life with that person. You don't get them for 45 minutes to an hour in a classroom once a week,
Hmm.
or you're actually doing life with these people and you're pouring into them along the way. And for me, it's really very ministerial. Because I'm all about ministry and I'm all about loving people and pouring into people on my journey. Because my story might be one that will help their story. Everybody
Hmm.
has a story.
Hmm.
So I think going back to answering your question, whether to sign a contract, whether to all of that stuff, uh, in this day and age, there are so many options
Hmm.
that you don't have to do any of that. I encourage my clients um that I mentor. I'll just use that term, that I mentor, and that I feel like I'm blessed to be in their lives and in their careers to guide them um down this road. And I don't have all the answers, but I do know what I've learned. And I've seen some of these contracts. I've got dear friends doing it right now in Nashville. I could sit here and give you a list of names all day long
Yeah.
of people that you would recognize that I've worked with growing up in this industry. Um, but name dropping, I mean, to me, it's like not a big deal because those people put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And but what I've learned from some of them and watching them, and we all kind of try to iron sharpens iron. So we all kind of try to pour into each other. And some of those relationships I've been able to maintain since we were kids, and just growing up in this industry. And I think today we have so many options because of technology, because of the internet, because of the networks and what they've become with all these reality shows and things like that, that honestly I can't stand. I really, I mean, to each his own, but I've seen some of the contracts on their shows. So my first thing is to tell somebody, just be you, be independent, put yourself out there on the internet, control your works. So keep ownership of your works. Don't sell yourself to somebody else, because
Mhm.
the somebody else that you're selling yourself to, they don't know who you're supposed to be. They
Yeah.
just know that they own you and they can make you whatever they want to make you.
Yeah.
But if you keep ownership of yourself, your music, your writing, if you're a songwriter, I'm a cover artist primarily,
Hmm.
but a lot of the people that I work with are young songwriters in this industry.
Hmm.
Um, I encourage them to network with other like-minded people
Yes.
in the
Yes.
industry, grow each other, pour into each other, and maintain your individuality,
Yeah.
because you're unique.
Yeah.
Um, and if you start putting yourself out there and signing contracts and comparing yourself, that's what it becomes. It becomes a constant comparison.
Hmm.
Oh, well, that person's better than I am. That person, has, so much more talent than I am. And I'm not. And if they start doing that, then they're destroying who they are as a unique artist.
Hmm.
And everybody brings something to the table.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
so my biggest thing is just really trying to learn who that individual is. Like with Isaac Kenneth, I'll use him as an example. He is one of I say one of my success stories. He's his own success story. The guy plays more dates than most signed artists in Nashville and New York do any day, any day of the week. He plays more dates in a year than any of those people. And I mean, these are names
Hmm.
that people know, that people buy their records on the radio. Um, he doesn't get radio play. He is an independent artist. He's an amazing songwriter. He gets streamed on all platforms because he's maintained ownership. And I've worked with him since he was 16. He's
That's
28 now.
amazing.
So in the beginning, he didn't know all this. He basically took the guidance and things that I said to him over the years, and he applied it and then some. And now the the student has become the teacher.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
But I tell him, he does 200, 300 dates out of a year. And he worked 4 jobs so that he could do his music in the beginning anyway. Homeschool
Yeah.
kid, 9 siblings at home, like
Goodness.
seriously crazy.
Yeah.
And the dude, I am so proud of him. He's like my son, my surrogate, his surrogate mom. He's my adopted
Hmm.
son. But if you ask him today, because he's making a living, a decent living
Yeah.
doing music. And yet most people in Nashville don't even know who he is. His style is unique today because it's very classic country,
Hmm.
but it's new music. It's what? It's new music and
Hmm.
it's classic country,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
the feel. That's what sells him. He has a voice that's like butter. Like in the 80s, there was Don Williams, and in the 50s and 60s, there was Jim Reeves. That's Isaac Kenneth today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and all of those were great influences. He is just a young, very well-grounded uh, young man in his faith, in his purpose, and he is always continuing to grow and learn in that. But at the same time, you ask him, Isaac, when are you going to make it? Meaning the old term of make it. Are you going to? I used
Right.
to get asked all the time, and he would sit there and tell you, I already have.
Good. Yeah.
I
Great.
am playing music 24/7, 7 days
Yes.
a week. Like
Yes.
this is what I do for a living. People are hearing my music, they're streaming my music. I'm getting paid for people to stream my music
Yeah.
all over the world. I'm getting hired, Monday through Sunday, weekly at different places all over the state, down into Arkansas, even in Florida, people are hiring him. He's getting hired. I mean, and he did all of that himself with online presence
Yeah.
and with continuing to work in the physical venues, you know, and promote himself. He learned how to promote himself. And now he's not having to work 4 jobs anymore. He's doing music.
Yeah.
This is
And
full.
the takeaway is he did it all by being himself.
Yeah,
And
he
the
did.
possibility of
Exactly.
him losing himself by signing something over or a
Not worth
contract
it.
was not worth it. And
Not
it's worked
worth
out
it.
for him. That's fantastic.
Yes. Yes, Trina, it's a piece of yourself. You know,
Yeah.
you're giving a piece. It's no different than an artist painting a beautiful canvas.
Yeah.
That's a piece of them. It's their art. When we're singing it, you don't get to actually hold it up in front of you and appreciate it, but you listen with all your senses and you use all your senses to appreciate that art. And that's what God's given us the ability to do. And he giveth, he could taketh away. So I'm just grateful, that he's given me the opportunity to pour into these next generations. I won't coach my daughter. I do
Yeah.
it. I'm her mom. That's the only hat I want to wear in her life.
Oh,
But she respects me as an artist. And she's watched me since she was itty bitty work with all these other people, like the Isaacs of the world. And and she hears what I have to say about them protecting their voices and doing technique, developing a really good, strong technique and how to grow your voice properly and all of those things. But she also has watched the business side of it. She has become a sponge, and she herself is wanting to do that. So right now she's enrolled at OTC in the electronic media program
nice.
because she wants to be the singer artist, singer songwriter that's in the booth and knows what's going on the other side of the soundboard. She doesn't want to be that technically challenged artist
Yeah.
at the mercy of some engineer made to give them the sound they want that explains
Yeah.
who they are, that defines them. So, I mean, that's really cool. I feel like um, yeah, I work, gig to gig. I take on clients, so I have my coaching alongside it. Everything's under the umbrella of my LLC. But I have my certain shows that I book,
That's
and it's a blessing.
it's very
Yeah.
exciting. So we're getting close on time.
I'm sorry.
When can
Yeah.
no, you're great. We'll have to have you back for more. When is your next show? What do you have lined up coming down the
Oh, goodness.
pipeline, and where can people go to learn more and hear more from you?
Sure. Well, let's see here. The next thing that I have on the books is a private 90th birthday
Oh,
party at
cool.
Finley Farms. So I'm super excited about that one because that was booked all the way from LA. So
Nice.
excited about that one at Finley Farms. But really, like I said, my first one is the 23rd of March. I will be down in Harrison, Arkansas, at a place called the Tallgrass Bar and Grill. And that's my next gig, and it's from 5 to 8. It's just me solo. Toward the summer months, people can follow me. Let me just tell you that people can follow
Yes.
me on alliehutsell.com. That's ALLIE, Hut and Sell put together, .com. And all of my social media links are there. So they can like and follow Allie and Grace, Allie and the Cats,
Awesome.
and they can see where we're going to be. And also under the media tab is all we have videos and all kinds of stuff that we like to share with people when they go on the site, and they can come check us out. We'd love it.
I'd love that too. Thanks for sharing. So exciting. Wish you so much more in return that's coming your way.
Well, thank you. I am so proud to be here and proud that you asked me to be on the show. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much for
so
that. What an
much.
honor.
Thank you.